And we're live. I have only the last whispers of coffee left. So, today's the day for the Azrael plushie. This guy has gone live on Makeship. I need to show this off. He's got little eyeballs in his hands, and the red part of the eye is like Velcro, and it sticks to the heart that he has. So he hugs the little heart. If you can get the dots on right, there we go. All right. So, I'm going to see if anybody wants to hang out. To hang out with me while I'm streaming, all you need to do is join the Discord. And you can pop into the voice chat and ask me questions if you want. I am going to be here for the next couple hours and working on my daily studies. And then hopefully getting back to my painting that is now 8 days late. Every day, I'm counting up the days where I'm a little bit later on finishing this thing. But I haven't wanted to give up on my daily studies. So I keep kind of working on the studies and then, telling myself I'm going to get back to it the next day. But, yeah, we'll... I will get it. I'll get it sorted out. It's okay. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm really excited about the plushie. The people over at Makeship seem to think this thing's going to go really well. I'm really stoked. Azrael is my icon. This is my dude. Turning him into like a cute plushie doll is a totally weird idea. And it's gone through like a bunch of revisions over the course of nearly the last year. Yeah, it dropped today. It's a 21-day crowdfunding campaign. And then yeah, if it go like, here's the secret. I'm gonna tip my hand. I'll let you guys in on it. They'll run it for an extra week if it goes really well. So like if it goes really, really good, they're going to push it forwards and extend it for one more week. So that's going to be exciting. Anyways, I should probably do the promo and shit when people are actually in the room. Yeah, like let me see. I gotta get my studies up here. Study JPEGs. Hey, Adam. I'm hearing your thumping.
Mic was muted, maybe. Maybe you heard the thumping of me muting the mic.
Oh,
I'm going to try to be a bit quicker on the draw.
Dustin's asking me if it's a hard decision to chibi with the pins and the plushies after Angelarium was so serious for so many years. Yeah, it was serious, but I never was. So I always wanted to do something goofy, and I just never made time for it until like later. So this is me finally just, making some time to show my goofier side a little bit. See, I don't think I promoted the stream on Twitter yesterday, but the stream did pretty darn good. I'm really happy with the sort of gradual upward trajectory of this thing. So I'm not sure what to do about whether I just promote everything for the plushie. So I don't think I'm going to pop on social media to go push it. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the stream numbers today. Once I get things rolling here, it's been really good. I just have to pick a study subject for today. And then I'll post it in the Discord for anybody who wants to do it along with me. I don't know, Adam, you've been doing them along with me recently.
Yeah.
Do you want some?
Yeah, if you can post it, that'd be great.
Any input on some ones that you would like to do? I got some weird artsy ones, some portraits, some landscapes.
Ooh. Okay. Good morning, first of all, or
Good morning. Good
afternoon.
morning.
I would love to cast a vote for like a fantasy forest environment, like
Fantasy.
landscape.
What I got like I've got some fantasy. I've got some very fantasy looking mountains over here. This is some very Lord of the Ringsy looking mountains and
Dope.
forests here. Is that what you want?
Hey, I'll cast my vote for Fantasy Mountains. Yeah.
I also have some more concept arty looking mountains right here, which I'm personally a little bit more interested in drawing, but
By the way, you are not streaming, so I can't see. But
oh,
whatever makes the most
okay, yeah.
exciting.
Well, let me hit the I'm actually streaming button here. I'm streaming on Twitch. The
Yeah,
Twitch
but
people
here,
tell me.
there we go.
There we go. And then camera on so you guys can also see my plushie. The plushie went live today, by the way.
A big vote for the one on the left. I love the lighting,
Okay.
but honestly, like it's
All right.
your.
All right.
your
Yeah, I'll pull that.
thing.
I'll pull that one up, and I'm gonna resize it the way I usually do, and I'll post the resized one over in. I think what we need to do is let's see. Dustin made a channel called Twitch Stream Agenda. This is where we post our political takes. But no, I'm not sure what Twitch Stream Agenda is, but I think that may be the more appropriate place to share the reference than on the stream, on like the channel chat here, the voice channel chat with. Wait. My brain's not here right now. I'm like not even in the right dialogue. I'm like, why is this dialogue box wrong? My brain is just. I just got finished posting everywhere, and when I start posting, like, I get a little stressed out. Let's see. Discuss more focus, duration of the cast, blah blah blah. Related to agenda, he'll answer during the stream. Okay, I mean I think this is a good place for it then. So this is, was it 4.3?
So how you been? How have your other projects been going?
I mean, you've been seeing them. You've been here. This is me hanging out on stream, working on studies, building Huckleberry up. That's been like the thing that's been eating up the majority of my time.
Gotcha. Okay, all right.
So it's in the streaming agenda. Should I do it here? Is that weird?
No, that's fine.
One suggestion, if you make maybe a role that people can sign up for, that's like a stream ping role. So every time you go live on Twitch, it's a specific role that you can ping.
Yeah, Dustin. That I believe I brought that up to Dustin before, and this is the sort of thing he's helping me with. So I totally agree, and I'm not entirely sure how to set that up. So I guess we'll just add that to the list of like minor tasks for the immediate future.
Well, I mean, I guess there's no real rules, but like, am I allowed to just like do something different? I don't really want to do a landscape. I'm trying to.
No, you don't have to. You can do whatever you want, man.
All right.
And like we were like reviewing him yesterday. I don't think I'm gonna do that anymore. I think like I'm just gonna focus on painting while I'm on stream rather than do so much reviewing, because like we were kind of reserving Friday for being the like let's look at art and review it day.
Okay.
Regarding the whole thing with the roles and such, we're gonna create a wish list. So then, when I reach out to this Discord guy on Fiverr, he's gonna be able to just whip things up super quick.
Let's go Fiverr. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Love those 1099 contractors.
Okay. Oh, that's not a link. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Discord.
let's
www.twitch.
Let's do an environment today. This would be fun.
I'm messing out around on the Discord over here on the other thing. There, how do I make it a link? What the hell? Whatever. It's
Might
fine.
have to add like HTTP or whatever. I don't know.
HTTP, that's a good one. I'm gonna try HTTPS:/hack. There we go. I was just I found a YouTube gifted upon me a brand new suggestion for productivity software, and so I'm gonna give this a try. I think today I have on my task list to check out something called Obsidian.
Interesting.
And it looks like
Dude, I use it all the time. It's so good.
it looks like it is designed for Obsidian.md. Get
Yeah.
Obsidian for Windows. So I'm on the Notion train right now, and then I saw one thing for Obsidian, and I was like, oh, I think this is what Notion is trying to be, but Notion's trying to be like the normie version of this, and this is like the hyper autistic software developer version.
Oh,
And
it's so
also,
good, man.
it's the open standard, all the keys are in your pocket version of things instead of the more walled garden version of Notion. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna mess with this later. I'm like kind of excited because like this is the sort of thing I need in order to function good. Because over the years I've learned that like it's not worth it for me to just like become obsessive about like wanting to be better at stuff. Like I can't just wish myself to like be good at like taking care of emails or like being
Right.
like clearing tasks or like even being sort of a semi-functional adult, especially during times when I'm dealing with depression. Like any kind of anything less than like peak executive function, and things start going pretty bad for me. So I need a system. And the more I've like built in functional systems for myself, the more I feel like I've been like a functional adult that's able to like be reliable for other people. And so I was never a taking notes in class guy. I was never organized with anything I ever did. I've just dropped the ball over and over again for so many years that like I've just figured that was just going to be me forever. And then I guess over the last few years, maybe it's been in the last 5 or so years, I just keep getting more of these things, adding more of these things to the stack, and it keeps getting kind of better bit by bit. And so, like I now get excited about it because
really
it
work for you.
What's up?
What type of things like really work for you? Because I also struggle with executive dysfunction a little. I mean, I feel like everyone does.
I love Inbox Zero, which is not actually software. It's just a practice on how to do email. I like the guy who invented it too. He hates it now because it got turned into like a buzzword and no one actually pays attention to like what he was trying to accomplish with it. He's somebody who's had like tons of problems with executive dysfunction as well, and so he developed a system for doing email that was like helped him like deal with the problems he was having. And he was like a productivity blogger at the time who was somewhat famous. So when he like introduced this thing, it like caught on. And then a bunch of people kind of like either wrote misinformed articles about it or like tried it out but did it the wrong way. And so there's like this general opinion about what Inbox Zero is, and then there's just like what it was intended to do and what the sort of intent of the whole thing is. And I do kind of a light version of it, but when I'm like caught up, 100% caught up on my email, my inbox has literally 0 emails in it. Like they're all deleted. Because like in Gmail especially, like when you delete something out of your inbox, there's a secret folder that they hide from you called All Mail, and all your emails are still there. They don't get deleted off the server or whatever. They're not gone. They're just in the All Mail tab, which no one ever opens because the inbox is all mail. Like everyone's inbox is just like there was a quote he had where he's like, yeah, you shouldn't your mailbox shouldn't be your filing cabinet, you know? Like, and the inbox should just be the inbox. Like that's where the stuff comes in, and then once you've like sorted the mail coming into your home, you don't like take the stuff you're not about, the bills you haven't gotten ready to pay, and put them back in the mailbox. You like put them somewhere else. Yeah. So it's like not that like crazy of a system, but like you see anybody, you'll get anybody's phone. You'll get your own phone, and it probably says there's something like 62,000 emails on that little red bubble above the email app. Mine says like 12. And when I'm done, there's no red bubble next to my like inbox, next to my like email app, which is I think is kind of rare. I don't think most people do that. But once you do it, you realize that was kind of like the suggested usage the entire time, that everyone may be doing email wrong. And so I feel like I've discovered secret knowledge by like doing it this way, because it's like maybe like this was the ancient lore of email. This was what the great gods who invented email were like intending for us to do the whole time, and we've all been collectively fucking it up, and like and now I've returned to the old ways.
Let's go.
So yeah, I love that. But yeah, like that, and just like I don't trust myself to remember anything anymore. If like I have an appointment, if I'm supposed to be anywhere, if I'm like if it like when this stream is supposed to go live, like everything, I have it on a calendar. I don't trust anything to my memory ever. Any task I need to do, anything I need to reply to, all of it's written down somewhere, and it's written down in places where I can do things about it. Like I refuse to have bits and pieces of information in places where I can't use them. So like, you know, meeting appointments written on sticky notes in like rooms I'm not in, or like ideas for like what I'm supposed to be doing in the office is not written down in the kitchen. Like I try to make sure everything that I need to know is in the place where I can do something about it. That way, like, I don't clutter up my whole life with a bunch of shit that I'm like never going to engage with.
Yeah.
Which I think is, again, kind of standard. I think that's like I think that's the default mode for most people, is to like, you know, try to burden themselves with ideas of things that they feel like they should be doing, but not at times or places where they can actually do them. You know what I've been meaning to do that I haven't been doing is I've been meaning to try out some new brushes, because I've been using this one brush for basically every study for the last 40 days of studies. And I feel like I keep bumping up against its limitations. So it's like, as much as I love the idea that it's like, you know, the workman and not the tools, I wonder if there's better tools for the kind of shit that I'm trying to do. I know Ash dropped their brushes in the resources tab here on the Discord. I downloaded them and then I never installed them because I was worried that it would like, oh, I don't even have the hotkey for this anymore. Huh. Can't even get the brush tab open anymore. Where's the brushes? Brush presets? There it is. Yeah, my brush presets, I can't even get to it anymore because the hotkey, I used to have it on the button on the pen, and now I don't have the button on the pen is the lasso tool, so I don't even have access to it. These are mostly Photoshop default brushes, but for some reason I was worried it was going to be like 1,000 brushes long if I loaded Ash's set, and that I wouldn't be able to find like the 3 that I want, even though they're in the tool presets.
Like, yeah.
But yeah, so I need to like, I thought today was gonna be the day where I got to that. I don't think it is. I think I'm gonna do one final one with this with this brush, and then I'm gonna commit to making like try out some new brushes to see what the brush landscape looks like, because it's not something I poked my head in on in the last decade. I tried out a few things when I was trying out new programs like Krita and CSP, but I'm not using those, so kind of doesn't matter.
I actually had a art business related question.
I would love to answer some questions. Yeah.
Okay. So obviously it's kind of adjacent, but it's still kind of up your alley of things that you've always been historically successful at. Obviously I would like to start selling my own miniatures, and it's not quite art, but a lot of the successful miniature companies that I've taken a look at, they all do a Kickstarter, but I'm not really understanding what a good format for a Kickstarter actually is. It's kind of like all over the place for the most part, from what I've seen. And usually they'll do a set of miniatures to build into, but it still seems like the upfront investment was still there. So it seems less wise to have a collection of minis you're trying to kickstart than just one or two at a time. Because they still had to pay the sculptor, they still had to pay the concept artist, they still had to do all that upfront costs. And I thought the whole point of the Kickstarter was to kind of have proof of concept and see where your funds are coming from before overcommitting. Do you have any suggestions for that?
Well, okay. So if you're focused on digital products, you're right. All your investments are already in the past. If you're doing a Kickstarter for a mini that is going to be like an STL file. Mm-hmm. When it comes to physical products, it is a really bad idea to try to run a Kickstarter for a product that hasn't been developed yet. This is where all those Kickstarter nightmares come from, including my own. I had a 5-year delinquent Kickstarter that probably cost me over $1 million in terms of lost revenue, and then not to mention losing fans and just goodwill from people because of 5 years of product updates where I was it's almost done, and then not delivering it because I wasn't good at making a book, even though I had promised hey, I know how to make a book, I've done it before. It turns out I didn't know how to make a book, and that I was getting myself into deep trouble, and I didn't realize that I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. Mm-hmm. So it is so easy to end up in that situation, and so it's really, really dangerous to say, here's some pictures of what the thing is going to look like, and I totally know how to do all the work. Just give me the money, and I'll take care of the rest. You should be kind of ready to go to production before you get to the point where you're asking people for money.
Okay.
And that's become kind of the universal view of Kickstarters, is that if it's not ready to go to production, there is a chance that it's going to turn into a nightmare for everyone involved.
So it's more of a upfront funds type of thing where you've developed a product, it's done effectively, right?
Yeah.
And now you're just getting hype. Is that
that is okay? So when it comes to a physical product, there is a big part of it that's hey, do I order 1,000 books or do I order 10,000 books? Because that's a factor of because with my own books, I pre-sold, it was 2,500 copies, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if I sold 2,500 copies over the course of a 30-day period, I should stock more than 2,500 copies because then I can just keep selling it. So it's if I hadn't run the Kickstarter, what would I guess that my print run should be? I had no basis for making that kind of presumption. So it's it not only does it pay for the initial print run on a physical item like that, but it also gives you an idea of how large that print run should be. How deeply should you invest beyond the original campaign funds is a product of the campaign funds.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. With an STL file, it's a different situation because you're not going to have to go into production on the thing. There's not going to be any costs that you're going to be taking from the Kickstarter money and then like, passing on to the customer. Like you're not going to be taking money from pre-orders to be able to like fund the production of anything. It's like already done. It's like ready to go. If you have all the models done at the point where you start funding it, if it's a digital product, you can ship it the next day. But you are right in the sense that like the Kickstarter campaign is a vehicle for building hype. Like people have a different reaction to Kickstarter campaigns than they do to an online store by a lot. And if there's something that's time limited, like the FOMO it creates is genuinely motivating for a lot of people.
So you would suggest maybe Haps in this situation. I know it's not like okay, but anyway, so you would suggest doing first tier access to STL. Second tier might be like 200 limited resin copies of like a casted version of this, and third tier could be like I don't know, something else. But
yeah, like it's an opportunity for you to sell a lot of like associated stuff, and like if you have other model sets that are adjacent to it, you can be like, and if you want to, you can add on some of these other models, because one of the things that Kickstarter does is people browse Kickstarter just to look for projects they think are cool.
Do they?
Yes, like Kickstarter's actually like shockingly good at drumming up new customers. Like Adam was someone I advised through a Kickstarter back when, he was first trying to kick off his sort of indie artist adventure, and he ran a pin campaign, and it was like, he didn't have a ton of online followers at the time, but we're like, no, go run it anyway, because if the pins look good, you're going to get half of your customers are going to be people who have never heard of you.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's totally right. And there's also like, especially on like, pins for an example on Kickstarter, there is a market of pin collectors that exclusively look at Kickstarter to expand their collection.
I wouldn't be surprised if the same is true for minis, because like there's a lot of projects, whether it's mini board games or like I've seen sculptors, doing campaigns that, do big numbers. I would presume that if you look around there and you see like, there's like a handful of campaigns that are dramatically outperforming all the other ones. At that, they're like, okay, well, a lot of them are doing around 10,000 in sales, but these campaigns, they did, 300,000 in sales. You might look at the way that they have like their tiers structured or how many minis they have on offer and go like, oh, this doesn't make any sense to me. I would say keep studying until it does make sense, because the chances that your instincts are correct in a market you've never participated in before is pretty low. Like, it's fair to presume that the top performers are doing something right in that space, and that it's worth the extra time to invest to figure out what influenced it, other than what the kind of obvious snap conclusion might be. Because like in a lot of cases, people will look at something and go like, oh, it sold big because it was anime, or some other random conclusion that sort of undercuts the value of like what the creator was doing. I would say, like, if you're seeing campaigns that are selling huge numbers that don't make sense to you, like, spend extra time looking into, like, where did people find out about this campaign? What else has this maker done? Is there something that differentiates it in terms of its presentation or its structure that could result in, like, a positive outcome? That kind of comparative or, like, competitive analysis can be huge to figuring out, like, how to run one of these things correctly, because like you get to cheat off of it and see, because like in an online marketplace, a regular online marketplace, you go to you can get this a little bit from Etsy, but if you go to like somebody's Shopify store, you might go, wow, that's the most beautiful Shopify store I've ever seen. I bet they sell millions of dollars worth of products, but you don't get to see their sales numbers, so you don't get to tell. With Kickstarter, you get to totally cheat, because you just sort them by who made the most money. And just like go like, okay, what do the top performers do? And just like you can see exactly like when they ran it, how much they made. Maybe it's like, oh, this was a very specific time in history where this type of product, it was really high in demand. Or like, hey, there was this person was involved with it, and I don't know who they are, but it turns out they're really famous in this like niche community, and because they were involved, like that's the reason why it blew up. But like, there's always a reason why the successful ones are successful, and it's like because everything's transparent on Kickstarter, you can learn a lot of lessons by spending some time researching similar product categories.
And so Kickstarter is kind of like, it's kind of driven like, so you're saying that you can get people through Kickstarter exclusively, but
Yeah.
say for example, I'm literally nobody, right? So this
Right.
is like,
Let's
I
say you
no
have
followers.
zero followers, no one's ever heard of you.
What do I do?
Is it worth it to run a Kickstarter? Your answer is yes.
Okay. And how would-
So it's one of the only platforms on the internet where that's true.
Like Pete was saying, you can look to see like you'll go to a really successful campaign that's got an absurd amount of traction, and you can look at the socials of the person who posted it, and sometimes they're really popular, sometimes they have a massive following on Instagram or whatever, but more often than not they're non-existent anywhere else, and they've just built goodwill on the platform of Kickstarter.
So you're really going as far as to suggest like you're like no followers, no nothing, brand new company, go to Kickstarter.
It's the first thing I recommend somebody do when they want to go indie is to go and run a small easy Kickstarter to get their feet wet as far as the learning the process for running a small business, something that you already have some experience in.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
So
it's wild. I know what you're like. I understand the words coming out of you and Adam's mouth, right? It just sounds so crazy to me.
It's one of the things that I think what's really interesting about Kickstarter. If you go there right now and let's say minis is the product category you're interested in. You go look at how many campaigns right now are running that are selling minis like the ones you want to sell. The number is, I haven't looked, but I would say higher than 0 and lower than 100. Might be lower than 12. Can you imagine going on to Etsy and then seeing that there's only maybe fewer than 20 people selling minis, but also there's people that made $1 million selling minis? That would be crazy. That would be a completely insane thing. But that is exactly what's happening on Kickstarter, is that it's a place where people sometimes sell $1 million worth of niche products, but also the amount of competition at any given moment is really limited because they're broken down by these kind of storytelling campaigns that only happen intermittently. Because you don't have people selling on an ongoing basis through Kickstarter. And so the amount of competition you are dealing with at any given moment is really low, which makes discoverability really high. They don't even need to shuffle that many people through the system for you to dip your ladle in and get a few dozen new customers that had never heard of you. Because it's they get a decent amount of traffic across the site. They're pretty good about email marketing back to prior customers, and there's almost no one using the site at any given time compared to other online sales platforms.
Yeah, I'm taking a look now. Yeah,
can you count
right.
how many mini campaigns are there right now? Just
actively running.
Just say live now, and see and count them up, and let me know. Because it's a matter of driving the point home, but also I want to feel like I'm smart and I called the shot on this. Because you can watch me painting while in the middle of this. Anybody who sees it might go damn, that guy's good.
I think we're at. There's a lot.
Okay.
There are a lot. A lot of them are related to board games, though, which is kind of the hard.
Let's say not include the board game ones. Not just because it makes me smarter.
Less than 40. It's less than 40.
Less than 40. So my call of greater than 0 and less than 100 is true. I was anticipating lower than that, but
I can actually count. So it's
greater than 20 is surprising to me, but still, that's
15 times 3, 45.
45. Okay.
Yeah,
still.
But some of these are not. Some of it's terrain, right? Some of it isn't necessarily exclusively miniature. Some of it's historical planes.
Yeah.
So No, I would say that your assessment of less than 20 actual competitors in the same field is probably correct.
Nice.
So, but yeah,
But like,
I mean,
can like just I mean, letting that sink in, I think is interesting. Like, there's an online marketplace you can go to that everyone's heard of that has fewer than 20 competitors for you on it at the moment. That's nuts. Like,
oh, and even some of my favorite like people that did it on Kickstarter only got like 200 backers.
yeah, like most creators are bad at marketing. Like there's some incredible sculptors I've seen that have done terrible campaigns. And there's incredible sculptors I've seen that have run fabulous campaigns. And the difference is a factor of 10 in terms of like their like what their results, like what they get out of it in terms of funding. Because like it one of the things that I like about it is like, you know, it's got a measurable system where you can determine like who's succeeding and who's failing. It's not a measure of art. It's like who's getting the money and who isn't. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it is. Huh. That's wild.
But yeah, so I know you're hearing me say these things, and they sound counterintuitive. But when you dig a little deeper on the facts of the situation, it starts to make more sense.
It does. But even from a content perspective, should I be posting concept art? Should I snippet these conversations with you even? Like I don't even know where to begin because the actual like
the place to begin is what I already said before. I just want to reiterate it because I think it's like this is what there's no I wouldn't like you can go to somebody who's run one of these like 300K plus campaigns and just ask them every specific question, and there's a chance they'll just tell you. But they kind of don't need to if you just do your homework.
Watch.
Because you can just go to the top performing all-time campaigns, open up the top, 5 tabs that are like in your genre, made gobs of money, and like, look like this kind of thing you want to make, and then just copy everything about what they did in terms of how they made their graphics, how they price their tiers, and then you can go through and historically look at every single bit of like marketing that they put out like across social media and just use it all as a cheat sheet and just template it all. And nothing about it's proprietary other than the intellectual property of the products themselves. Like you can. The thing that's crazy to me about artists being bad at marketing is that it's like there's nothing proprietary about marketing. Like if somebody has like an advertising template and it just converts like crazy, anyone can just go look at it and download it and just make a copy of it in Photoshop, and there's nothing illegal or even like immoral about that. It's marketing material. Like technically it's intellectual property, but you're not going to be able to sue someone for making a Facebook ad that looks similar to a different Facebook ad.
Yeah. So in this particular case, I know these miniatures. I've seen these. They're incredible.
Yeah.
But in this case, they invested what I would have to assume at bare minimum $20,000 into their lineup of miniatures.
Right.
I can't do that.
Uh-huh.
So like how do I still copy the general template even with far fewer miniatures? Like
if you can find an example in the marketplace that is doing the thing that you're asking, the answer is yes. Like there's only so much that like my prior experience with the platform counts because I haven't been using it really actively over the last 10 years. It's or I mean less than that, but like ever since I had my own disastrous campaign that had like a 5-year delay in it, I didn't run another campaign while I was delinquent on another. So there's like a big gap in my knowledge where I haven't been using it. But also like when you get more and more granular with these questions, all the answers are public. They're all free for you to steal off the internet, which is incredible. Like again, what platform can you just like steal everyone's money-making secrets and everything is like published other than Kickstarter? It's crazy. The level of transparency on there is ridiculous.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pete. I really appreciate it. I'll leave.
Yeah.
I'll leave the stage for someone else. I did find one kind of similar, and they made a lot of money. They made 20,000 pounds on what is effectively a modal 75 millimeter like historical Greek Artemis, where you can give her a spear and a shield, or you can give her the option of like
so
a bow.
If you have an outlier like that, it's important to look in and see like what affected that outlier.
Yeah.
You know, was it that the person was a big name on a social media platform, and this is the first time they did a crowdfunding campaign, and people were just like, they had this pent-up demand? You know, was this connected to something else that was popular at the time? Like, there's got to be an explanation as to like why this had an outsized success.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's worth doing the homework on it, because, you know, with something like an STL file, like it's easy to Kickstarter gives you the platform to be able to tell a story about what you're making, and then, you know, the risk level is like 0. Even if you're making like a physical product, like for something that's simple like pins or stickers or whatever, like smaller products that are built off of someone's art and don't require you to hire a bunch of contractors prior to going live, like it is so easy to like it's like so free to do a Kickstarter, because like if it fails to fund, everyone gets their money back and you're not on the hook for anything, which is incredible.
So if was the situation you're talking about, it wasn't a failure to fund. It was. Oh,
I funded. I sold $200,000 during 30 days,
right?
And then it took me 5 years to get people their rewards.
Gotcha.
I got an email a few days ago from somebody who's like, "Oh, I forgot to click the email 6 years ago at this point.
Wow.
I never got my stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, you never gave me your address." And he's like, "Do you still have all the stuff?" I'm like, "No."
No, not at all. Okay.
But he's like, "Yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, thanks for emailing me back. I'll whatever you got, send it my way. I'm happy."
Yeah.
But like,
Awesome.
I'm still like either like filling orders or processing refunds for that thing, like to this day, like intermittently.
That's
because people don't give you their address until after like the campaign is like ready to ship. So like not when it ends, but like when it's ready to go, which was like there was a 5-year lag between when I was when the campaign ended and when I was ready to take people's addresses. So the number of people that just didn't respond to the email was really high. So I shipped out thousands of books. I shipped out 12,000 pounds of books over the course of 10 days. And yet there was still hundreds of people who I just never got their addresses, who I was DMing them, I was emailing them, desperately trying to get their info so I could send them what they paid for, so that I no longer had it hanging over my head. And like, you know, people just don't get all their emails because, as I said earlier, people kind of suck at email.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I know. Like I'm terrible with email sometimes too.
Yeah, and then Google puts them in those separate folders, those fucking separate folders. I don't use that. I have all my email goes through one folder, even all of my like mailing lists and stuff, and I just unsubscribe from every mailing list I don't actually want to read.
Yeah.
Also, on your Gmail, they have hotkeys turned off by default, but there's like hotkeys for like instant like moving through and like doing stuff with your email, like reply, you know, archive, all the things that you would normally be clicking on the UI for. You can keyboard your way through that shit at hyperspeed if you turn the hotkeys on and learn them.
Okay.
So like I built up a muscle memory for like instantly deleting emails, so I can, if I have like a whole bunch of like weird crappy spam or like emails I'm never going to reply to, things I don't need to be involved in, somebody just replying to my previous email saying, "Yeah, thanks, I got it." Like I just like muscle memory my way through it and just keyboard through like 20 emails in a couple of seconds. It's so easy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm realizing that I don't know how to draw clouds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, oh crap.
I need to do a cloud drawing tutorial because like I love drawing clouds, and like I think it's something I'm known for is drawing clouds. I draw a lot of clouds. What do you have? Are you drawing this reference I'm working on, or do you have a different reference?
Yeah, I have here. Let me stream it. I got you.
Oh, the daily ref. I don't know how long ago this question was. That was 40 minutes ago. Sorry, T. Discord doesn't even want to show me people's names. I just get the ellipses now. Thanks, Discord. But yeah, if anybody in chat has any questions, like feel free. I love answering questions.
While we're still somewhat on the topic of Kickstarter, I had a question about your campaign that you just launched, not on Kickstarter,
Oh,
but
yeah,
on
from makeship.com.
Yeah. Can you tell me a bit about your thought process behind that?
So Makeship contacted me and they said, hey, we make these plushie dolls for content creators. And I had seen them because I love YouTube and I watch a lot of YouTube. And so I had seen some YouTubers who had these like plushie dolls made of their characters. And I had heard the name Makeship before. And they reached out to me and I was like, I know what you guys do. I'm in. And the deal is like, you need to sell 200 of them for the thing to fund. They have a fixed price. They handle basically everything other than the marketing side. And if you sell over 400, the splits on them are actually pretty good. So it was a fantastic deal. Like I was really stoked that they reached out to me, and like the marketing person I'm working with over at Makeship is awesome. It has like this big Bible full of like marketing, crowdfunding best practices that she sent over like before the campaign was launching. That was just like way more and better marketing info than I've gotten from anyone in a really long time. It was so cool. So yeah, it's gonna. The secret of it is that they run these things for 21 days, which is like kind of short for crowdfunding. But if it goes really well, right as soon as you get all the money for like the final 2 days. I mean, you've seen how this is. Like the first 2 days and the last 2 days are your biggest days on crowdfunding for like Kickstarter and stuff. What they do is they say, we're gonna create a special offer. I'm totally giving away all this shit here. We're gonna do a special offer that like because the demand for this thing is so good, we're gonna add another week, and then you get another. Not only do you get another week, but you get another final 2 days. Like the final days are so good on the first and last days are so good on Kickstarter campaigns that they account for basically 50% of all the funding. Like the way I would calculate like what people could expect out of their campaigns is like I would take their first 2 days and then I would multiply it times 4, and I would say if you do a really good job of marketing through the middle of the campaign, you'll get your first 25% the first 2 days. Then you will get the next 50% over the course of the next like 26 days. And then the last 2 days you'll get the other 25%. People sometimes screw it up. Like I think that some people will go and they just won't market for like the middle part, or their marketing will be really bad, and they will, they won't get that much in the middle. But like even if you do a really good job in the middle of a campaign, it's like not even close to as good as the beginning and end. So if this thing goes good, it's going to run for 30 days, and if it's going to be bad, it's going to run for 21. So you'll know if it was like a good success if you see an email from me like 3 weeks from now going, oh my God, guess what? We're going for another week.
It's such a hack getting to final day.
I was like, having already known about like the first and last days and the power of them, they told me this, and I was like, you guys are geniuses. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you appreciate this. And I'm like, no, I have spent so much time thinking about marketing, more so than just about any other artist. And I got to tell you, you're nailing it. And so that was like, that was fun. Like they're like, oh my God, you actually think about this stuff and care about it too. Like, thank you.
That's so cool. Do they do they design like the design for you, or how much creative input do you have during the process?
The design was such a pain. We went back and forth a lot. It was like partially my fault, partially their fault, but like they were really, really good at like sticking around and working with me on it. I sent them my pin, my Chibi Azrael pin, and I said something like this, but like not exactly. Here's what the guy normally looks like, and I sent over like all the previous paintings, and what I got back was like a kind of softened up, misinterpreted version of the pin with no other reference used, and I was like, oh no. Like, damn. Not okay. They said it was unlimited, but they said it was unlimited revisions during the drawing process and then maximum of 2 prototypes, which I was like, that's fair. So I'll just make sure to be really good about this. And so we took another couple swings at it. Anya pitched some designs. Anya pitched a design. I was like, Anya's so much better at drawing cute stuff than I am. So she pitched a design, and I saw the turnaround, and it looked just like her drawing, and I was like, perfect, awesome, let's do it. And so they made the prototype, and I was like, whoa, what the hell? Like, and apparently what had happened was they had just like been so literal with following her design that like they had done a version that was totally different than their typical body type. Like the way they do hands and feet are like pretty standardized. The arm, instead of having hands and feet, he just had nubs. He just had like he just had like a wrist with no hand on it and stuff, because she had drawn these like really simplified hands. And so instead of being like, that's a simplified hand, we'll stylize it the way that we normally do hands, it was like, we're just going to give him a stump. And I was like, why does he have stumps? Everything about like all the details like is technically correct, but like not interpreted. And so I was like, okay, well, we got to start over. And then it was like back to more pain, because I was like giving them this version with a big floppy hood, and they're like, and then I got it back, and it was like, it looked like Kenny from South Park. It was like pulled really tight around his face. And so we went like 3 versions back and forth. They kept making prototypes, and I was like, no, it's supposed to be floppy. And I was like, all right, fine. It doesn't look at all like the character. I don't like it. I'm canceling. And they're like, no, we're going to make you happy. And so I was being like this unreasonable asshole and like walking away from it. And they're like, no, we can do this. We're good at making plushies, and we care, and we want to see you happy. We're going to look through all the feedback. We're going to look through the drawings you sent us and all the written feedback. And then they came back and they had this and they sent it to me. I was like, that's awesome. You guys killed it, actually. I'm really, really happy with it. Like, I was so scared pulling it out of the bag. It came in like a nice like cloth bag. And I pulled it out, and I was like, this is actually perfect, and I'm really, really stoked for this thing. So like it was.
How's the actual like in-person quality of it?
Oh, it's awesome.
It's awesome.
It feels the texture of it's really, really good. I like the build of it. Like I gave them a ton of hard problems to solve, and like they didn't get it the first couple of times, but they stuck with me to figure out like how to solve those problems, and like pulled it off, which I was really impressed by, because like I'm a tough customer when it comes to like, you know, my IP. I care about things that other people don't care about, and I wasn't entirely sure what my vision was when I started, because like my character doesn't translate well to like a cute chibi format.
Yeah,
I was still impressed what you accomplished with your pin campaign. That was
and you know, it's like it's not like I'd never tried to do this before, so like I'd already done this once, and then I was thinking, I could do better than that. And this time out, I'm like way happier with it. Like compared to the pin version, I think this is the vastly superior version.
This is the final chibi form.
Yeah, so like it was a little bit more work than I anticipated getting it done. Like I think for like some people's IP, it's going to be really, really easy to make something like this. Mm-hmm. For other people, it's going to be really, really tough. But like for an artist, it's like, yeah, as an artist, you just have like very specific expectations about what your thing should look like. I think it would probably be easier if they just like had a photo of a guy or something. Like one of their top campaigns ever was a YouTuber I watched named DankPods, and he has a snake, And so all they needed to do was make a snake that was like had the right pattern. And he had a rock. He had a rock that had a Sharpie like writing on it that said #1 grit. And so all they needed to do was make a plushie triangle with a word written on it. And it was like, and that was what all it took to like be one of the top campaigns they'd ever done, was to like make a snake and a rock. Because like,
That's amazing.
if you have like, if your community like knows what those things mean, like that, it's a big deal for them to be able to get something like that.
Yeah, the esoteric Mimi becomes an advantage at a certain point.
And if you had a character that was already kind of cute or whatever, that was already kind of plushy-like, it's easy. They're going to do an awesome job. It's like I just ended up in this like totally weird hole where I was making things super hard on them, and then I think they managed to pull it off anyway. Which I'm just like, I'm pretty sure they could do it for anybody's thing if they could do it for me.
Yeah, because we've been thinking about, there's a plushie we want to get designed, but we're like kind of looking into maybe Alibaba / Kickstarter. And
Oh
there's
yeah,
like,
these guys, they only do it by invite only.
Oh,
So
wow.
like they don't accept like people just like running on that. They'll come to you if you have a big enough of a, because they do it with like YouTubers, and they do it with like, was it content creators, social media influencers, whatever, which I've said that that's technically my job, but I don't say it with any sincerity. But this was one of the very only times where someone actually treated me as an influencer. And so I thought that was pretty cool. But I would love to say, hey, you should go to these guys. They're going to do a great job. But I can't.
Right.
So you were saying that the first day of Kickstarter is really important.
Yeah.
But if you have like no one who knows about you or is watching for your first day Kickstarter, does that still hold true, or does it just kind of fall into your? Okay.
It's just that like when they first launches, like it gets sent around along with like marketing emails and stuff, I think.
That's wild. Okay. Hey, I want to pull this out further. That's just, it sounds so insane. Sorry. It just sounds complete.
Give it a shot. I mean, it's like what I say to people is like, give it a try, do it with something low stakes that you can afford to like have it go bad. And, basically everyone I've told to try it has walked away with $1,000 in their pocket, which is like hard to beat. And then some people I've known have walked away with $10,000 plus as a result of doing this sort of thing.
I will run my comps. I will do some deep dives. I think you'll see my Kickstarter floating around probably.
You'll see me in Times Square, dancing for nickels.
Around like 8 months probably, because that's just the lead out on sculptors pretty much. Unless
I think if you're going to do a smaller mini campaign, like I don't know if you already have a sculpt.
I have the like, it's funny, Jack is in here. He just sent me like revision 3 of the concept.
Oh, okay.
But I have some sculptors in mind. Eric is one of them, and then there's 2 guys in Spain I really, really like. So yeah, like it's going well.
I don't think it's gonna take you 8 months. I think you can do it in 30 days. I think you can be ready to launch in 30 days.
What? I don't know many sculptors worth their salt that don't have like a 1-year lead out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
In this design space, because it's like, it's pretty particular the amount of detail you need for like a miniature of this scale, and there's just like a very few select people that know how to nail the right amount. Like I just don't. It's very hard. Also, Jack just sent me the new concept. It's dope.
Hey, I just want to say hey to @Sanny and Nexty. You guys are new in the chat. Welcome. Man, these Twitch streams have been fun. Like, it's great to see you guys like show up every day and hang out with me on Discord. But also, it's like cool to see like new people are like following and subbing. It's nuts. Like, I did not anticipate. I wasn't sure what was going to happen with all this stuff. But yeah. It's cool. I'm happy to be out here doing the studies every day with like a bit of some company.
Yeah, and Pete, you're making me want to try Kickstarter, but I
Oh yeah,
already
you
have a
could
gazillion
you could
things
totally
I'm
do
supposed to
Kickstarter, man. Like, no reason not to.
But I'm like Kickstarter and grow my Twitter and
But
like
that's the
do
thing is
studies every day
it
and
gets you
like
new customers. So like it does grow like Adam can attest to this. Adam has been with me on this ride. He's done it before. It's not that nuts. And then like Adam was telling me, "Oh, like it's a good thing I did all this because then when I went on the road that we have something to sell."
oh, okay.
Oh yeah, no, it's well, like Pete was saying, it's not like you have to put money down on something that doesn't exist yet. It's super low risk. All you're risking is your time, and by going through just going through and doing one, you're going to learn how to do a better one next time. So it's really, yeah. If you have a campaign that you want to run, it's like the least risky move you can make with the biggest possible upshoot, especially if you're not starting out with the inbuilt following.
Yeah, like everyone, I think that the myth is that like you have to have like a big following, and then like you do a webcomic for 20 years, and then you run a Kickstarter, you make $1 million, right? Like it's kind of the opposite. Like there's very few things that work the first time you try them on the internet. Like you go and post, and you get like 0 likes, and nobody follows you, is the default. But with Kickstarter, like you have no audience, you've never sold anything before, you make like one little thing, and then not only do you get paid $1,000 to do it by the universe, but you also then like grow your audience as a result of it, and you get experience in the process. And then you also have like intellectual property that you can leverage for future sales when you go and do your next thing. So it creates like a foundation that you can build from for the future. So it's like for me when I'm advising people to like jump into indie stuff, it's always the first step. It's like before you get too caught up and worrying about whether or not you're ready for things, draw the straightest possible line you can to a Kickstarter, because like, you know, if you discover you hate it and you never want to sell anything online ever again, like you're free. Like instead of ruminating on it for the next 20 years, thinking about what could have been, you're just like, you get it out of the way, you get it out of your system. If you say, oh my God, I want to do a bigger, more ambitious version of this and I want to launch it in 6 months, you know, do that. You know, if you want to pivot and like say, I never want to sell this kind of product again, but I want to give this another shot with a different type of thing, like it gives you data points that you can then make choices from. Like, you know, we spend so much time sort of like sitting on our hands thinking about what we should make down the line. Like, I love the practice of being able to risk-free just, like, jump into a space and see what'll happen. Because we don't get a lot of those. Like, the world is just, like, it feels like it's designed to punish people for, like, wanting to try to make things. But
yeah, I mean, you talked about like also gaining traction on Twitter and stuff like that too. I mean, one of the reasons it's so hard to gain traction on social media now is because it's so oversaturated, right? There's so many people. Like the barrier to entry to posting on Instagram is 0, but the fact that there's like this hurdle that's, you know, knee high to launch a campaign on Kickstarter means that there's so much less competition.
Yeah,
like Pete was saying, it's like under 100. Yeah, like go to any social media site where there's under 100 of anything. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, damn.
Gelden Leaf is asking in chat if you're going to any conventions, Pete.
I've been saying no for a long time, but there's actually a convention I'm going to in a couple of months. I'm going to be in LA, Pasadena Convention Center for Lightbox Expo. Got a table. I'm going to have books. I'm going to have the whole fucking thing. It's my first one in years. I'm excited.
Dude, that's so dope. You should be, man. Like you have a huge fan base. You know, like.
I just saw a video from a friend, Dustin Pisano, who's posting a video of like his financial breakdown, and like the thumbnail says like how I made $240,000 in a year as a digital artist, and like you could just have the video could be 1 second long, and it's just him popping up for a moment. He just goes cons and like goes away. You know, he's giving a more detailed breakdown, but it's like conventions are like if you don't have like a massive online brand that you've built, like conventions are like the way that you can go ahead and like get into that whole space. And I've watched people go from like a cold start to being like working artists as a result of like investing in cons and stuff. So back when I was doing them, that was like a major source of like, you know, being able to buy a house. Like it was like the reason why I was able to save up to buy a home. The reason why I had financial stability during the years where I was screwing up my Kickstarter so bad, like all that came back to like cons. It was a big thing for me.
Yeah, back like a couple years ago when I was still working with Pete, I was still working a day job with my partner. Both of us were still working our day jobs, and it was like quitting our jobs, kind of cold turkey free fall, and heading into cons. Like we made it work, and it was something that like we didn't even
and not even scary at all.
Yeah, not scary one bit. No.
I think that's also like a really good balance.
Did that work out for you, Adam? Like,
sorry,
going to cons and stuff. Did that work out for you?
Yeah, no, like we're in our second year of doing it, and we like the idea of going back and looking for work is like a distant dream to us because it's just working, and we can, and we're in Canada too, so I think it's like. I think there's a lot less.
Even if they live in a third world country like Canada, it's possible.
Yeah, they're just like.
I'm jumping on my client's meeting real quick, but I put in the person to raid in the Twitch stream agenda.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, see you around, man.
They should still be like, okay. I'll see you guys.
Jazz, really
And
look in the chat.
Geldon Leaf is asking if I'm going to be at GalaxyCon in Ohio. No, like I've hung up the con shoes for a bit. Like I'm trying to stay at home and work on online stuff, and see if I can just keep it rolling purely as like an online artist. It's just like, you know, Lightbox was an opportunity to be in the room with a lot of people from a lot of other artists from around the world. And that's the reason I wanted to go. And like to get paid well to go and be in a room full of cool people was like an opportunity I wanted to take. So I don't really want to be on the con circuit anymore because I have ambitions that require me to be home more. But yeah, like we were just, like Adam was saying, like I think as an entry point into like growing your brand and like being able to like invest in yourself as just as an artist and as a creator and like turn that into a full-time income, conventions to me feel like the entry point. It's something I would like to retire from, but there is a decent chance that like shit's going to shift in the economy or with my business or something in the next few years, and then who knows, like maybe I'm going to be back on the con circuit. I'll be pushed back into that space.
What did you ever consider like having a permanent proxy that just goes and does these events for you?
I did have that. Yeah.
It's wild. It's kind of like an like an agent, almost.
It was
not.
They were working like basically as a traveling salesperson. You know, it was like
Gotcha.
full-time salesperson with a salary.
And what made you shy or go away from that model?
Coronavirus.
That would do it.
There was a while where I tried to keep him on salary while the coronavirus was running, but like in the end, it was just like a lot of the strains that were happening at the time, you know, made me want to take my business in a different direction, and like so we ended up parting ways in the middle of like that whole thing.
Right.
And that was where I like started selling off a lot of my con gear, and like, you know, I was also during that same period of time finding success doing other stuff. And
right.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to see if I can springboard off of this and try to make this my full-time thing instead of like splitting myself between cons and online. And you know, I managed to like during that same period of time automate a lot of what was going on with my sales business. So like I had like a little warehouse space. It was a little light industrial space. It was basically a rented garage with no AC down in here in Florida, where I was like either had to staff somebody or I was personally going and filling orders like a few times a week. And so we were just permanently at the post office dropping off big IKEA bags full of like books and playmats and prints and stuff. And these days I have like a warehouse that I work with that does my orders for me. So like the whole thing is fully automated. So I do a certain amount of customer service, but that's basically it on the sales side, which is a totally different lifestyle, not personally shipping online orders every day. And
That's
like,
nice.
That's part of what's enabled me to like sort of focus more. I've been like, I think it took about a year after that point where I started like realizing that I could paint way more. Like it took me a while to like settle back into the chair and realize that like I wasn't always on the road and I wasn't always shipping stuff, and that like I've started to like say yes to different kinds of projects and schedule my time differently as a result of this like really, really major life shift. But yeah, it took me a decent amount of time after I'd made the shift to actually like fully embody it.
Congratulations on things working out for you, by the way, Adam. That's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Jazz, I think they can work out for you too. I think this is why I keep telling you this over and over again. I think you've got a good product, and I think it's just a matter of you like filling in a few skill gaps, and I think you can do that. I think it's totally possible. I've known plenty of people who've done it.
The fact that you might be scared to do a convention or do a Kickstarter means that there's other people feeling the same way you do, which means that there's an opportunity for you to do well there.
Also,
Okay.
I have a classic piece of advice. This one, let's just timestamp this as a classic Mohrbacher banger right here. I would say that if you're afraid to do it, it's not a sign that it's dangerous. The fear is sometimes just a sign that things are important. Like when you feel scared about doing a project or like taking a jump professionally, that's a sign you should always trust that fear as an indicator of like what you are mentally finding important. It's like it's not a good like thing to follow in order to like make choices. Like you shouldn't just like, if you're afraid of something, you shouldn't just avoid it. Your fear will tell you to avoid it. And, you have to, sometimes that's going to be right, but like more often than not, it's just an indicator of something else. Like fear is like a compass that always points in exactly the wrong direction.
All right.
So
well,
it's like,
the next time
it's a reliable indicator. It's
going to
just
be
not a
wrestling
truthful
alligators.
indicator.
I feel like a lot of the time, fear is just you afraid to take that next step. It's just like it's just something new. It's not necessarily something to be afraid of.
But like it's a sign that you wouldn't be, if something's unimportant, you're not going to be scared of it. It's not going to like weigh on you mentally or emotionally if you don't consider it at all. Like, sometimes you'll have irrational fears. Maybe you are worried that you're going to die because you're going to run out of air as you're handcuffed in the back of the trunk of a cop car, right? Like you could think about that every night.
Not a sign to go dive into a cop car trunk.
Yeah, that was oddly specific.
There's a podcast I listen to that talks about that's a personal fear of his, that of like running out of air while being handcuffed in the trunk of a cop car. And that's always stuck with me, is like, yeah, I definitely believe that. I definitely believe him that he thinks about that. But yeah, but like most of the things that we are afraid of are things that are on our mind because like they hold some sort of large emotional weight to us. And like, it's easy to kind of write that all off, but I think we do so at our own peril. Like it's really, it can be an excellent way for us to like decide, like, because everyone always says, oh, what should I do? I'm interested in so many things. Well, you should do the thing that you're scared of. that's it, in that moment, it's almost always like, hey, is there a project that is like freaking you out, that like scares you? And when I start getting a lot of questions from people about the same thing over and over and over again, it usually comes back to like, hey, maybe you're thinking about this a lot because it's freaking you out, and like maybe it's freaking you out because it's important. And so like maybe you should just like stop asking tons of questions and start figuring out what's the shortest path from A to B. So just do it and like either have success or failure. Like do it in a safe way. Like don't don't take every dollar you have and throw it into like folding tables to go like sell, art at like tattoo conventions or whatever.
Just do it.
But
Make
like
your dreams come true.
But like if you need to put up $350 to like rent a table at a local tattoo convention to go sell artwork, like just do it. Like that's not a crazy risk. Or like a local anime con or like whatever suits your community.
I think I kind of agree with that too. And as someone who asks a lot of questions when they start getting freaked out about things, but also like you can always make more money,
I don't know. I'm not going to say that about everybody. It's like people have money's a personal topic, it's like very personal.
I mean, like if I really need money, like I know I can go.
Let's say you've got Waze with a big winky face.
There's always ways. There's always ways.
Involves handcuffs and trunks.
Yeah, there's always money in the banana stand.
Backseat in a cop car.
Well, I can definitely raise like a few hundred or a few thousand.
You're like, I know how to not get caught for check fraud.
No, I just know how to not put myself in a situation. Like
You're right. It's not that hard to be able to put up. If you really needed to, if it was really important, you could figure out a way to put up $500 to try your hand at like selling at anime cons. Like, most
And
adults
if you fail,
can take that risk, and if they fail it, it will not throw them into a spiral that will prevent them from living their life. And the worst case scenario in a lot of cases is probably break even. Like the chances you're going to put up $500 to go sell at an anime con because you really believe that you could do it, like the chances you're going to lose $500 in the process is really low. Like when I see people fail hard at cons, they usually do slightly worse than breaking even, and they spend a lot of time, and it bums them out really bad. But like, that happens all the time. People do fail at this stuff, but it's like. It's
like if you're prepared for it, though, I don't know, good preparation goes a really long way.
Yeah, but I mean, I found over the years I've seen people fail at it in like new and incredible ways. I had this one guy come up to me at Gen Con one year, and he's like, "Hey, man, I love watching your show." I was doing a podcast at the time that was talking about the intersection of art and business. It's not around anymore. And he was like, "I love your show. You guys had given me this advice on like I should find a local printer for my prints, and I did that. But I'm wondering, how do you cut the prints?" And I'm like,
"Oh no,
what do you mean? What do you mean by cut the prints? What are you talking about? Like I've never heard that before." And he goes, "Well, they can't. How do you get them usually?" I was like I'm like, in a box. He's like, "They don't come on a roll." And I'm like, "No, fuck no." I'm like, did your printer deliver the prints like uncut on a giant roll and expected you to cut them all out? He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "How much did you spend on these?" He's like, "I don't know. They were like maybe like $9 each." And I was like, "Ugh." He's like, "What's normal?" And I'm like, "Listen, man, I thought I had the most expensive prints in here, and I'm spending $250, and like everyone else in here is spending like 70 cents, like each. Like 90% of the people in here selling prints have spent less than $1 per print." He's like, "Oh my god, oh fuck." He's like, "Am I gonna make any money at this?" I was like, "Dude, I don't know. Like that, you are at a tough spot. Like that's challenging, because he's gonna try to cut these things out at the con and then like package them and then sell them for $20 each, and then he'd have to sell through 50% of his inventory to begin paying off." Jay, that's you. Then he was gonna have to start, like, if he were to sell half of all the inventory he brought, then he would start paying off the cost of the table. And then after he paid the cost of the table, then the next bit of profit would be him paying off the cost of the hotel.
Oh,
and after that, it'd be him paying off the cost of the airline flights. And it's like, the reason why you like people will get prints for 50 cents and sell them for $30 is because you need to pay for fucking everything. The margins on a print have to cover every single inch of that convention. Everything you've spent on travel and marketing and like all of your your booth and like so many non-refundable expenses in addition to the cost of the inventory. It's like it's crazy important to build in huge margins. And on top of that, it's just like it's so much work to like manually be cutting everything out. It's like nuts. So I've seen people who are like maybe a little too early or they've made some huge mistake and they end up with problems. The only time I've ever heard of somebody bankrupting themselves was somebody had this idea where they were going to do a Kickstarter and they thought this Kickstarter would be their opportunity to make $1 million. So they bought out like an entire island, like a 20 by 20 island at a convention and hired cosplayers and set up computer kiosks so that people could sign up for their Kickstarter at the convention.
Oh my God.
A thing that no one has ever done ever.
No, I've tried pitching Kickstarters at cons. 0% success.
0% success. It's like people love spending money on Kickstarters at home and they love buying stuff from cons in person, but they don't. For some reason, no one will stand at a kiosk and back a Kickstarter live in person. This was their big innovation that they were like, everyone's doing it wrong. I have this great idea. And they put like every dollar they had into this idea of building this giant fucking kiosk to make an event, a live in-person event to support their Kickstarter. And their Kickstarter funded, but like barely, and made almost no money. And they lost like all their savings on this one giant event that they put on.
Damn.
I'm like, damn. Don't do that. It's like, just like, don't get too creative about it. Like, go to an anime con and sell prints and pins, and you're like set. It's like not that hard.
Knowing creative ways.
But yeah, I mean, Adam, you went and you took the plunge, and it was scary as shit, and like,
yeah,
and now you're like a working artist.
Yep.
Yeah.
You look at Adam's website recently. He's done like 1,000 tours or conventions in the last like few months. Looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean it's been like it's kind of like this period of time where I'm not doing a lot of art because we're sort of getting our con game up and running. Mm-hmm. But it's also enabled me to not have to get a job, which is 1,000% worth it. And it's also like there's still a lack of a balance in I'm adjusting to the lifestyle, but it's so worth it.
Is it worth going to like small local conventions? Because that would
Yes.
like really lower the barrier of entry.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Start local. I mean, some of the smaller, like we've noticed that like there's some local small one-day pop-up conventions. You're obviously going to make less money there, but one thing that does really well for us, like if we had to compare between like an anime con versus a comic con, anime conventions typically do better for us. We've heard this across the board with other artists as well. People just seem more keen to spend money on new things there. I don't know if Pete's experience is similar.
Yes, there's like a higher tolerance for novelty at anime cons, where it's like someone who is, if somebody's discovering you for the first time, they're more likely to buy at an anime con than they would at a comic con. Comic cons are more sort of entrenched in like people have their IP that they like. You know, if you're selling Harley Quinn fan art, like you'll probably do fine at a comic con. Yeah. I mean, you could also do fine at an anime con selling Harley Quinn fan art, but like if you're an indie artist selling your own IP, I think anime cons tend to be easier kind of across the board, even if you don't overlap with anime.
I agree, yeah. And they also tend to be a little bit smaller than comic cons too. So there's the thing we notice about big shows is that the big winners suck up all of the commerce. So big winners win bigger at big shows because there's only so much money to go around. Whereas an anime convention is typically a really nice sort of medium large slot to dip your toe in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily believe that there is, like, obviously there is, like, a finite amount of money to go around, but I don't really ever look at the con game as a zero-sum game. While I was in it, I was trying to bring up my competition as hard as possible because I thought, like, there was a lot of bad advice going around, and I did my best to, like, hang out at dinners and share numbers and talk about strategy and help everybody out. And I felt like the end result of that was that, like, the quality of the cons was going up and attendees were spending more money. I think, like one of the things that's true about anime cons is that there is like in any kind of convention, there's a certain amount of culture that spreads between people of just like here's what we do at these kinds of events. And one of them is like we go and we get prints from artists is like a thing that is sort of developed as a cultural phenomenon in these spaces, which I mean for people like us is like the most incredible idea ever because it requires no extra development. Like it's really easy to stock. Like you can get inventory at Kinko's or on the internet basically overnight. It's like the margins are fantastically large. It's like the best possible product to be able to sell as an artist is prints. The problem is that like, I mean, no one's going to own, like you'd think no one would own like 200 art prints that they bought at conventions, but they 100% do. People buy a shitload of art at these things, and they just keep buying for their whole life, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
They just start putting them in
when we go to a
binders.
Comic-Con, we hear a lot that people are like, oh, I love this print, but I don't have room for prints anymore. But
but then they find an artist they really love and they make an exception.
Exactly, yeah. We don't hear that very often at anime cons. And also, too, I mean, I don't know if you're into, like if I were you, Jazz, I'd design some pins, put it on Kickstarter. If it does well, bring those pins to an anime convention, because the people who go to anime conventions, there's also a nice market of people who just buy shit.
Fucking love pins at anime
they fucking
cons.
love pins. Like, I think, like, we crunched our numbers, and I think, like, 40% of our income comes from pins, something that we both had no interest in. That just...
And then you did it. I twisted your arm. You did it. You were like, actually, these are kind of cool. I have your pins. I'm so happy. They're great for, like, somebody who doesn't want to buy a shitload of prints, because you can own, like, a little token from your favorite artist without having to, like, buy a bunch of delicate shit that you're going to lose or break.
Exactly.
Pins are easy to store. They're attractive. They're durable. I really like them. And
they're great. They've grown on me. And like you said, it's like, well, you can put it on your. It's a lifestyle item. You can put it on your clothes. You can put it on a corkboard at home. It's very space efficient, and it's. Yeah. I think having a booth with a bunch of really badass art also sells the idea of they want this pin as almost like a souvenir, you know.
Yeah.
Like a.
They're like, oh, I discovered this incredible artist. Like, I'm not really that interested in prints, and they're like $40. Like, I'm going to buy something a little cheaper and, like, to remember that this artist is awesome and that I'm supporting them. And, they'll spend $10-20 on a pin.
Mm-hmm.
And did you say 40%?
Yeah, it's big. It depends on the show, but, like, tattoo shows will sell more prints, but the rest, it's like pins are... it's fun. I don't know if we could have made it work without pins. It's so strange.
Are you just constantly like buying a new batch of pins whenever you run out?
Yeah. Well, we've already restocked like our initial batches 1 or 2 times each. Yeah.
All right. Well,
get on you, man.
I'm past the timer. I think this thing's done.
Oh yeah, I haven't really. Yeah, well, I was going to work on this for an hour, and then I was going to move on to my mainline painting and like work on that on stream a little bit. But like, where are we on time? Hour 30. I'll go to 2 hours on this, and then I'll swap for a bit. But yeah, con talk. I haven't done con talk in a while.
I did an hour. I'm gonna be done with this now. Ooh. My brain hurt.
But yeah, Jazz, like, yeah, the between pins and like prints and stuff, like, you need to make some more pieces that are like illustrations and not just concept art to get into this space. But I don't think it's that much of a stretch.
Yeah, I do pins that are just like little cheapy fantasy characters.
Yeah, but like everything needs to be readable as like a cool idea at pin size, right? Like regardless of what it is.
Yeah, I think I can do that. Like, they can just be like little character vignettes, can't they?
Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time. Look around, see what people have, see if there's anything that you think would be cool that's a fun idea.
Well, I kind of always wanted an excuse to do sort of like, I don't know, there are these cute like chibi animations for like Fate Grand Order that I've always wanted to do something like, but I've never had like a reason to, other than I think it's neat. So like, I could do that as pins.
You can make whatever you want. like people do like little fantasy like accessories. They do animal stuff. It goes really well. You know, I have done really well with just like iconography, like my logo as a pin, like has done just fine for me.
Oh yeah, doing a bunch of little swords and spell books might be fun too.
Yeah, like I mean, you just imagine like you see people, they get it, they put it on their bag or whatever. Like one of the pins I want to make right now is like I'm about finished with the Major Arcana series. I want to do like a series of 22 like tarot cards, one for each of the Major Arcana, where it's like a simplified version of the design from the card that I've illustrated as a pin, so that like people can have like a little death card or whatever, a little, you know, tarot death card as a pin format made out of metal and like shiny metal and like enamel paint is like a cool little accessory to put on like a purse or on a backpack or something. So it's like if you have like a death card or a devil card or something, like whatever, you know, design or archetype you have an affinity with, that could make like a cool pin.
How expensive is it to make pins?
It depends on how many you're making, but they typically cost anywhere from like under $1 to a couple of dollars. Wow, that's cheap. It's not insanely expensive, and they sell, again, this is one of those items, it's like, it's a workhorse item, so the markups on them are pretty big because they cover the cost of all the other stuff you spend money on, and then leave you room for profit. Like, you know, doing cons can, if you are traveling to a con and you're renting a booth and you're, you know, spending money on travel, and like, you know, the whole thing can get kind of expensive. And so you need something that's going to leave you room to be able to like have profit at the end of the day. So everything, like, you want to shoot for a 10 times material cost markup. So if it costs like $1 to make something, you'd sell it for $10, which sounds like a lot, but boy, is it's still a bit of a lift to try to like turn, you know, all those plane tickets and meals and like hotel rooms and stuff into a profitable business.
Yeah, I'd say the scariest thing about doing cons for me was just looking at the amount of money that we were spending. I've never spent so much money in my life.
Yeah, while I was doing cons actively, I had a credit card that I was like regularly paying down $20,000 a month on.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
Like between running I was running my online business at the same time I was like running my convention business, and like I was like spending over $20,000 a month on my business credit card. But I mean, it was like I was making more than that. Like I was running the business at a profit, but like the business expenses, I was floating. You know, sometimes you have to sign up for a con like 9 months in advance. So they're like, okay, well, you want to get 2 corner booths, you know, 20 feet of like corner booth tables, like that's going to be $3,500. And you go, okay, you know, here you go. I'll see you in 9 months. And then, you know, you're stocking inventory, buying plane tickets, paying for hotel rooms in advance, shit like that. And it's like, you know, I could walk into a room and be down $10,000 and be like, all right, let's get to work. You know, the goal here is $20K. Like, we got to like make this money back. And so it could be a couple of days before we started seeing profit. And every single sale comes with a certain amount of expenses built in. So it's like that profit does not come easy, even when you're making back-to-back sales, like, because businesses take investment to run.
Especially when your prints cost 50% and come on a roll.
Yeah, Jesus. But yeah, if you go to like you go to a local anime show, like if there's Jazz, what city are you in again? Not to dox you or anything.
Kitchener Waterloo. It's like an hour away from Toronto.
Okay.
Canadian, hey? Yeah.
Yeah. So hour away from Toronto. So like, have I looked it up? No. Is there a small to medium sized anime con in Toronto? Yes. I don't know what it's called. I just fucking guarantee you, there is an anime con happening in 2024 in Toronto at some time, probably during the summer, probably not the winter. So you would need to. It's now a good time to start thinking about it. If you are thinking about getting a table, You are about 9 months out. I would start looking to see what the dates are and what the sign-up dates are for the Artist Alley, like today.
Okay. all
And
right.
you might be in for $300 or $400 Canadian
I can afford
to
that.
sign up for a booth, and you're going to float that money, and then you're probably going to spend another few $100 on displays and inventory. And I think that in the time between now and then, you have the ability to make artwork that is going to make you back that money, and with a profit that is going to make you happy and make you want to repeat that over and over again every year.
Okay.
Mhm.
One of the issues for me is I don't have a car. Although I know people with cars. Like,
Get a friend who as a table mate or like as a helper and be like, could you please can you help me do this con? I'm gonna need a ride. I'll give you a free stay. I'll give you a free badge. You know, like come help me sell at this thing. I'll make sure you don't have to spend any money on it, but I would need you to help. Like I've asked for help from people all the time in situations like this where it's like I'm in a city I'm not familiar with. I need some help at the table. I can't afford to bring somebody over for travel, but I will offer to like pay for their whole weekend and they can come hang out, and I'll make sure that it doesn't cost them any money to help me. And people will come and help, especially if they're friends with you. But even if they're not, sometimes people just like will enjoy being able to like go out to a con for the weekend and like, you know, have a social event, be a part of something, be helpful to somebody, you know.
Yeah, it's like a nice novelty experience.
It is. It can be good. And so that's a real option.
okay. Yeah,
So-
there's also cons like in this city. I don't know if there's an anime convention, but like I've been to like small, like comic conventions and things like that.
Sure. See what the costs are on the table. See what the dates are. Put together a
We
spreadsheet.
have a Renaissance fair too, where there is like no competition. I've been there a couple
That
times. Like,
Renaissance
I'd have one of
fairs
the
are
latest.
weird. I mean, you can look into it, but like Renaissance fairs have like strange rules about like you need to be renting out space for this many weeks. You know, they're like longer term engagements because they don't usually run for a weekend. They run for like several weeks during the summertime, often. And then in some
Okay.
cases, you need to be like buying, like if you want one of those spaces that has like a roof, like the buildings, you often need to be leasing the building.
Okay,
It's
this
like a
one just has,
major
like,
business
a-
expense to be at some Renaissance fairs.
like a big plot where like people set up tents that have like booths in them and stuff.
It's it could be different shows, but like I can my contact with, I haven't done any Ren fairs, but I've known people who have, and it is a different financial and like practical experience from doing weekend shows.
Okay, all right. I am actually friends with an artist who like does a little like he doesn't sell anything at the like local Ren fair. He does like art classes for like kids.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I might ask him about it because the last time I went to the Ren fair, it was like after COVID, and there was crazy foot traffic. They were like not prepared for the amount of traffic they got.
Uh-huh.
And like if I had set up a booth there, I would have had like the best looking art there by like a significant margin, and like there were all kinds of people selling all kinds of weird stuff that you wouldn't expect to be sold at a Ren fair. There were like furries there.
Yeah.
Furries.
Yeah.
I mean, hey man, if there's any, I've never done one yet, but I hear furry cons are quite lucrative too.
No, they're not.
They're not really.
Yeah, the reason why I'm convinced that like that's not true, but the reason why people think it's true is because the furry community is like a serious problem with poverty, and like they think the amounts of money to them that they say are like tremendous amounts of money are like totally normal to other people. So like if somebody made like $10,000 at a furry con, they'll be like, furries are so rich, and well, somebody will make $20,000 at an anime con, and it'll never even come up, like because
All right.
that's just like a small business had a good event, you know. But like there was like a big drama in the furry community once where someone once paid $10,000 for a commission, and it became like a Tumblr legend, and I'm like, that's like a medium-sized commission in the marketing, in like the advertising industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's a significant amount of money for a single illustration, but like for people that do like professional like marketing and stuff, like that's not crazy. Like that's probably the low end for like when people do like covers for games where they do the key art for like a game for like that you see on Steam or whatever. If it's being done by a small publisher, like the prices probably start like close to that and like can go up significantly above that depending on, you know, who's making the art and what the needs are. But like, yeah, furries, I knew somebody who was like formerly a very, very successful furry artist, and they just desperately wanted to like, it's actually happened a few times where people will say that they're like successful in the furry space and they just desperately want to get to fantasy art where there's real money. And I'm like, what? Like, this is the only community I've ever talked to that like looks at fantasy art and goes like, oh my God, like you guys are doing incredible.
Right. Okay, scratch that.
If you're a furry, like you probably have a fun time at furry cons, and so that might be a major factor that makes you want to go do it. But like, as far as like a crass financial decision, I tried it once. It was a disaster. Furry cons also, furries really like to be fair and inclusive as much as possible, and so they fuck around with like systems for like how people get tables in like really bizarre ways. Like I've heard of cases where, you know, because they didn't want to say no to anybody ever, instead of telling some people that they got a table and some people they didn't, they made everyone who wanted a table to show up at the con with all their stuff. And then they would like randomly pick people every day to see who could set up. And then you had to break down at the end of every day. And then every morning you would repeat the process.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah,
that sounds
man.
fun.
Total fucking
like-
nightmare.
So I fell for the meme that like it's easy to like get successful by like making furry art. And you know that like bunny guy I was like showing the other day? I was like, this counts as furry art. I'm gonna put it on Fur Affinity and then I'm gonna be a millionaire.
Yeah, no.
And I like looked on Fur Affinity and I was like, this is the worst website ever.
it's like it's a niche community that, you know, likes things that are different but from other people, but they're like because it's like so driven by people's imagination, like a lot of it happens on the internet. So it has this like outsized footprint on the internet compared to like how influential it really is in like the real world. And so I think like there's all these legends about it, like that it's either like there's tons of money or there's like, you know, tons of people or it's so easy to get famous. It's just like, I think it's actually like this hyper competitive little thing where a ton of people are all competing online for a very, very small reward.
Yeah, there's also, it just seems like there's a very high convergence point in terms of like what, I mean, Pete, your stuff is not furry art.
No, I thought, oh, it's transhuman. Like maybe and I'd done some stuff for like a role-playing book that had some like anthropomorphic, some characters with animal qualities, but they weren't like anthropomorphic cartoon animals.
Yeah. And I feel like the artists that I've talked to in the circuit that do furry cons, they talk about a lot about how like the people who come to their booth, they're looking for somebody to do their own character justice. Like everybody has their kind of identity, and so it's less about what you're bringing and more about what you can bring to them.
It's less about, the way I think about it is that it's less about people don't go to furry cons to buy products, they go there to buy services. So a lot of the money that is thrown around at furry cons is for commissions. So the people who succeed there are the people who are really good at doing live art quickly with traditional media, because people want like, hey, I want a painting of my specific character drawn in this style, like with these accessories doing this action. And it's like, it's much more in line with something like being a caricature artist at a theme park than it is like being an indie artist where you like make a pile of art and then you travel around with it and try to sell it. So there's like way less in terms of like print sales and book sales, and way more on like trying to stack up a ton of live commissions and like taking commissions home and always be working on commissions during your spare time. And that is a tough game. That's a really, really tough game to play. So like I was like, I tried to do I think a couple commissions live, but it was I'm kind of bad at commissions, and I don't enjoy them. So like it was like on top of having a fairly like strange, like it was a memorable weekend, but I had a bad time, and I didn't make any money, and I was mostly being asked to do things I didn't want, which was like draw people's custom character commissions on like badges and stuff, which I was like 100% not into. And I don't really care that much about animal art or furries, so nothing about it was the slightest bit appealing to me. It was like total misery for as an outsider. And then I was just like, I was never quite sure what was going on, because like the standards, like what's normal in that setting is like very different from everywhere else in the world. So it's like, you know, it's hard to tell when people are being chill or if somebody's like on a weird one. And like there's so much like weird spectacle going on that made me uncomfortable. And like I'm not even made uncomfortable very easily. It's just like, yeah, like
Imagine being a normie.
Yeah, I mean very much. Well, it was like
You're like, oh god, run.
Yeah, but it was like people would be like, oh, what does the name on your badge mean? I was like, that's just my fucking name. So irritating. I became like so irritable so quickly at this thing, and then it was just like I'd meet other artists and be like, oh, you got a portfolio? Can I see? And they'd be like, yeah, and it'd be like wall to wall pornography, and I'd be like, oh, like dang. Instead of being like, you know, being like, oh, I saw this artist, they had really cool style, I was really excited to meet him. It was just like, oh, here's the kind of pornographic interest that I'm servicing. It's like, oh, I mean, good for you, I guess, like, but not really what I'm like here when I'm like trying to meet other artists. It's like I'm not interested in seeing their pornography. Just so I was just like, oh, this is a totally different like kind of interaction than.
Yeah, I know so many artists where they just have like portfolios full of pornography and that's all they have, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
What? I mean,
I'm glad. I feel like I've gotten a lot of information from biased sources, so I'm really happy that you're giving me the outsider perspective.
This was also the last time I was at one of these things was a really long time ago. It was well over a decade. But like, I mean, you know that the con. You ever see All Gas No Breaks, or like now he's Channel 5? Like when he went to a furry con, it was that con. I was at like that con like the previous year. So. Midwest Fur Fest in Chicago, because it was like it was a local con for me. It was like no commute required. You know, I put up a couple $100 for a table, or maybe even just like $100 for a table. I don't remember. And then I was there. I had my table to be there and like, you know, be stuck in elevators with a bunch of people who were making fucking dad jokes all weekend. It was awful. It's like everybody was doing a bit all the time, and I didn't appreciate it.
You know, I don't really like any kind of cons, you know, like Comic-Con, whatever con, because I feel like it's like yourself. I'm not made uncomfortable easily, but there I was just like out of place. It's like, what the hell am I doing there?
Yeah, that's why I
wanted
left.
to meet. I wanted to meet an animator that was like that made some of my childhood animations. We were miming them around all the time, and the guys who were setting up the whole convention, he was like one of the prominent faces. They were like capitalizing on this heavily. Like he couldn't even step out of the desk to take a picture with his fans, you know. And if you wanted to talk to him, you better buy this journal, you know.
Yeah.
So he can also put his signature in there. And I'm like, yeah, no, thank you, goodbye. It's left.
Yeah, one of the reasons I stopped doing cons was because I just felt like at a certain point, like when I was a teenager, going to an anime con and being surrounded by other people who were into anime was like this special moment where I felt like I was around people who were into the same weird thing that I was for like one of the very first times. But as I got older, like, you know, I started getting into my like later 30s and going to these things, and I'm just like way older than everybody, and I just started feeling really out of place. And like that was one of the things that drove me away from it. Was I was like, I don't want to be in a room where I feel uncomfortable for the sake of making money. Like, I want to be in spaces surrounded by people who I'm excited to be around. Oh, yeah. I got rated by Elia Art. Thank you very much, Elia. This is the first time I've been rated.
Hey.
Let's go. Big raids.
Yep.
Tom Volderi was saying, I launched a Kickstarter campaign for a video game without an established community. It went well, but it didn't reach the goal. Community is everything. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about like small, low stakes stuff. Like it's easy to do like pins on Kickstarter, but boy, is it video games is tough. I'm not sure why anybody does video games on Kickstarter. Why there's like such a huge culture of it, because like video games take an incredibly long time to develop, and you typically do the campaign like before the game is done. And so you have like years of development that like the campaign almost never pays for. And so you end up like in debt and out of time. Like that's like the story of almost every video game Kickstarter, is being way, way over time and deep in debt by the time the game actually comes out, if it comes out. I think that Patreon's probably a way better fit for game developers, but there's no culture of it. For some reason, game developers don't use Patreon for ongoing support throughout the long development cycle, and I don't know why. I keep trying to ask them on social media, like, hey, you're an indie game developer, like, why don't you have a Patreon? Doesn't that seem like, wouldn't that be a better fit for what you're doing? And they go, oh, no, I did a Kickstarter. I'm like, okay. And it's like no getting through. Like there's not even a conversation about like, here are the specific reasons why I don't want to do that. They'd be like, it's weird, right? People don't do that. And I'm like,
the culture is
okay.
kind of about developing like wish list.
Well, admittedly, there is a growing culture of just doing your own games, like passion projects, on your off time. It's like I increasingly see more and more projects pop up, the indie projects that don't even like ask for any money up front. For example, the Road to the Woodstock was like that, Out of Action, and both of them are on Steam already. Admittedly, they're being done by like gaming industry veterans.
Yeah, but
both of those games.
The idea of community being really big is something I think is really interesting. I've listened to like some of the marketing talks about game development and what, hearing about how like people built like strong Discord communities, and then day one on launch were able to leverage Discord into being like the way that they sold their game and got a big hit. I thought was a really interesting idea. I think I'm done with this study. I think I got one. Another one in the bag.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Let's go.
I've kind of altered my studies.
Oh, Elliot was saying that they did a study from the exact same image. Like, I bet there's like I actually found multiple reference photos of the same cliff for studies. It's I guess a very popular cliff for concept artists.
I mean, it has a very interesting color palette.
Yeah, the photo. I mean, it's really cool colors. You get there's tons of value variation, but also like concept artists love like the big, pointy rocks. Like if a rock can be big and pointy. I remember I was watching that.
Shape-wise, it's also like pretty great.
Yeah, like whenever I look in the background of a movie and they've got like rocks that like look like this, I'm always like, oh, it's lasso tool rocks. Like they always run like in video games and in movies they always like run diagonally like this, and I'm like, oh yeah, somebody spent thousands of hours crafting. Like some concept artist spent 2 seconds crafting the rock shape with like a lasso tool, and then some VFX guy spent the next like 3 months of his life trying to recreate those rocks. They can be the background of some CG shot somewhere for making an alien planet. I always think of them as the lasso tool rocks. But yeah, this is like lasso tool rocks in real life. It's cool.
League of Legends is basically a lasso tool game.
Lasso tool the game, yeah. It's like there's like a lot of stuff that you just see it and you're like, oh, it's like people every once in a while when I was working in studios would be like, check it out, it's like concept art the movie. And every time anybody says it's concept art the movie, I always end up hating it. Like
in my opinion, the concept art the movie is Hellboy 2.
Hellboy
it's
2?
Like everything
kind of,
you look at it is concept art.
I don't think Hellboy 2 is good, but I kind of like it because I actually really like the designs in Hellboy 2. But I was thinking about like when Sucker Punch was first getting advertised. Oh my God. Yes. Sucker Punch was... everyone was like, "Oh my god, check it out! It's concept art the movie," and that movie sucked so bad.
I mean, it's not concept art the movie. It's WLOP the movie. I feel like.
Oh yeah, or like the other one was Jupiter Ascending. Oh my god.
Is it the one by Wachowskis?
Yes, yeah. It's got Channing Tatum in it and Mila Kunis playing a space princess. It's I accidentally spent $20 to rent it in a hotel room once, and that's why I've seen it.
Oh, it is generic concept art, the movie.
What?
At least
Jupiter Ascending?
Yeah.
You know, at least they filmed the Saint Petersburg scenes in Saint Petersburg and didn't do like some sad, dirty parody.
I love this. Eddie Redmayne and like this, the design on this collar thing. People would have thought this was made by an AI if they had seen it nowadays, but this was made before AI. This looks like the movie looks kind of like it was spit out of an AI because it's like every generic concept art trope, like overdone.
Wait, is that not a WAP painting? Oh my god.
No, it's not. This is from the movie.
Oh my god.
So it's like they did every overdone concept art trope, but they did it all out and like with total earnestness. And so it's like it looks like a lot what like AI generations look like nowadays. And so when people were like, "Oh wow, look at it! It's incredible! They're making top quality Hollywood films," I'm like, yeah, I guess. We did try to make movies that looked like this once. It bombed, right? It bombed. It was I don't know. I don't think it was the look of it that killed it, but I don't think the visuals saved it either. Channing Tatum has hover. He has hover rollerblades that he uses to skate through the air.
Yeah, I don't understand the current trend where there's just like a lot of information in every single scene.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, Marvel is kind of guilty of this nowadays.
So much contrast.
I really like the Hellboy 2 because the set pieces and like set designs and costumes and creatures, it's all like very good concept art. That's why I'm saying like every time I hear concept art, I say like yeah, Prince Noada.
I like all the designs for Hellboy 2. I think the weird dark elf people, I was like, oh my god, they look like the blood elves from World of Warcraft. They look great. They look kind of like Brahm designed them. I love this guy's whole thing with the facial scars. This makeup effect looks really good. All the props there, incredible.
His choreography is amazing. It's like I haven't seen the same.
I haven't seen this in a while. This wig kind of looks like shit. This wig looks like it's made out of plastic. But like,
have you seen the new Dune movie?
Dune? Oh yeah. I don't think Dune looks good in screenshots, but it looks amazing on like a big screen. And like people kept asking me if I designed the angel from the Hellboy 2, but no, it's Wayne Barlow, who I have borrowed from plenty of times. Being confused for Wayne Barlow is a very flattering thing.
Did you see the concept art for Endariel, Diablo 4?
What? Endariel?
It looks like something you've done. Starts with an A. There you
go. Blizzard has
the second image right there.
Blizzard has referenced my work before. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, this looks like something I would do for one of the Watchers. Turiel has like a big collar, like half moon collar like this behind his neck. That's kind of similar. I always wonder
the clouds and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they reference my work a lot for Shadowlands, and then they just came to me and said, "Hey, we reference your work a lot. Can you do the promo art for this expansion?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" So I did the splash screen for World of Warcraft Shadowlands. Like, I ended up doing that, and it was cool.
Oh, can you show it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's out already.
Yeah. Let's see. Just gonna make sure I'm not doxing anything I'm not supposed to. Commercial work. Blizzard. I just did this one thing. So the ref they gave me was this. This is the character, and I was looking at it, and as I looked through it, I was like, oh, I was like picking out pieces of like my designs from like other stuff. This is this is work in progress shot, the widescreen one.
Yeah,
it was really involved.
Your work is very atmospheric, like the atmosphere, the nail.
But yeah, the Arbiter was like a big thing, and then they wanted me to do the Jailer too, but they didn't have the Jailer's design nailed down by the time I was working for them. And it was like right before the game came out. They like reworked his design basically as the game was being announced. Like they ended up changing his design from like the point when they were showing previews. They had him like in silhouette, and then they changed it before the game like came out. These files are really big, so it's going to take a second.
He was supposed to have a beard.
Yeah, he had a big beard. He looked like evil Santa Claus. I'm not going to show anything that they gave me, but like I looked at it and I was like, ooh. So this, looking back on it, I could do better now, but I always do a little worse when I'm working on commissions. But here's my Arbiter painting, and so
I appreciate the like spectral mist coming out of the head.
Yeah, that was part of the design, and you know I'm always up for drawing a bunch of spectral mist or whatever. I think that the high level shapes, I think I could have built the contrast a little better, and then I also had to like. I wanted to integrate the figure with the background more, but they needed me to be able to cut it out, and so I ended up at some point having to clip harden every soft edge on the edge of the figure, and so that the character could be like hard clipped out. And then they wanted me to draw all these like portals and pillars and stuff that were all in perspective, which is just like weakness for me. So.
I really like the blend of basically the blue and the red tones. The warm.
Thanks.
It's cool. Like the blending between the.
But yeah, this was my one commission for Blizzard, and it kind of panned out, and it got seen a lot and used a lot, and it was very much in line with my existing work, which was interesting. That they were like, "Hey, we want to hire you to just be yourself for World of Warcraft." I didn't see it coming.
Can you do some color picking on your clouds to see where the saturation is?
I'm gonna move on to working on the thing I need to work on. Sorry. Wait, the contrast on this is way further, way higher up. Oh, thank you, Elia. I'm sorry I'm missing your messages and stuff while I'm working on other things. It's great to get rated by another artist on here. So yesterday was the first day where we remembered to raid people, and it seemed like they knew who I was, which is cool. So I'm hoping to like get to know some of the other artists that are here on Twitch. Doesn't seem like it's a gigantic community, you know? Plenty of opportunity to meet people.
Oh, Dancer has been playing Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, I've been seeing.
Man.
I was like, oh, Thompson's online on the server. I was going to pop in, but he was playing video games. I was like, ah.
Yeah, he's doing that. He's been playing a lot of games.
Let's see. I need to finish this. I am immediately unable to concentrate looking at this thing. Like I need to make choices to wrap this up. So I don't think I can do that while streaming on Twitch. I would just paint too much worse. So thanks everyone who joined me for the study. I'm gonna be back tomorrow, and then Friday we are gonna do reviews. Like we're gonna be going through people's portfolios. If anyone wants me to look at their daily studies, you know, there's a portfolio submission space on the Discord. I'm gonna hit that one more time if you're in the Twitch chat. Come join us, and then I'm gonna be reviewing people's stuff and giving them advice and feedback. Yeah, that's going to be our Friday thing, and then I might even be bringing people in to do some like guest starring for that too. That could be fun.
Pete,
yes.
Are we gonna finally see you come on the gesture studies?
I keep trying to take the weekends off, and that's why I keep missing them.
Gotcha, bro.
But I will. I'm gonna set an alarm this week so that I don't keep missing you on it, because I really love that you're doing these things and I want to join you.
I've invested for some quality reference pictures. They're
Excellent.
pretty good. Nothing but quality.
Oh yeah, Dustin set aside a person for me to raid. So I'm gonna do the raid before I log out here.
You should probably put in your Twitch account in your bio on Discord.
On Discord? Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. We're gonna be raiding KSM. Oh, who's playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now? I guess they were doing art. Now they're playing Baldur's Gate. So if you guys want to check out Baldur's Gate 3, we're raiding KSM today, and I'll be back tomorrow at noon Eastern, same time as always. In the meantime, let's see. Raid in 10 seconds.
Not the miss. Okay, this ain't looking too hot for us.
All right, raid now. I'll see you guys.
See you, Pete.
Have a good one, man. Take care.
Cheers.